Hi everybody, Dan Illman, Mike Beer. Welcome to Breeders' Cup Focus. In this week's edition, we're going to take a look at the top contenders for the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Let's show the list right now, rated in order by Daily Racing Form National Handicapper Mike Watchmaker's preliminary morning line. We see the Breeders' Cup Sprint champion from last year, Dre Fong, as the 7-2 favorite on Watchmaker's preliminary line. The razor sharp Roy H for Peter Miller at 4-1. Imperial Hint coming off of a win at Parks at 6-1, along with Mind Your Biscuits, the Dubai Golden Shaheen winner. Ransom the Moon and Takaful are 8-1. El Deal is at 12. We've got Whitmore, recent winner of the Phoenix Stakes at Keeneland, at 15-1. The old gatekeeper of the division, Stall Walk and Do It, at 20-1, and Awesome Banner at 30-1 rounds out the list of early contenders. But any discussion of this race must begin with last year's winner. That is Dre Fong. It's been an abbreviated campaign, to say the least, since he won the Breeders' Cup Sprint last year at Santa Anita. His first start did not go smoothly when he dumped the rider, but showed no ill effects of that race when he came back at Saratoga, and he won at Saratoga, a major race for the second year in a row. This race, though, much like last year's King's Bishop, he went to the front, didn't take much heat, and kept right on going.
Yeah, I mean, look at the fractions of the race. 22.89 for the opening quarter. School was out at that point for this horse. Listen, he's obviously a really talented horse for Bob Baffert. You know, for whatever reason, I've had real trouble buying into this horse, and I still kind of wonder how good he is. He's had so many soft trips in his races that it just makes me wonder how good he actually is and what would happen if, you know, God forbid, anybody ever hooked him on the lead. It just seems like it can't happen in his races, but maybe it'll happen in the Breeders' Cup. We'll see. You know, he's obviously a good horse, though.
With horses on the list like Imperial Hint, like Takaful, like El Deal, you got to think that Dre Fong is going to have to deal with a lot more early speed. If it was anyone other than Baffert, I'd worry a little bit about the preparation. I mean, he's only had really one real race since last year's Breeders' Cup Sprint. We won't count the start where he threw the jockey. But Dre Fong, we know he can do it on the major stage, and he did come back sharp at Saratoga. Roy H for Peter Miller sort of came onto the scene with his big win Belmont Stakes weekend in the True North handicap. He had all kinds of trouble at Del Mar in his first start after that when the riderless Dre Fong ran into him.
Right.
But then last time out, he righted the ship in the Santa Anita Sprint. This is exactly the kind of prep you want to see.
Yeah, this is a pretty impressive win for this horse. He just sort of sat right up there 3 wide. To me, there was never a point in this race where it didn't look like he was going to take care of this field and take care of them. He did. This horse has gotten awful good.
He is capable of earning gigantic buyer speed figures. He's got a tactical gear. He is not a need-the-lead type like many sprinters. And that was, you're right, it was just the perfect prep. He sat outside. Kent asked him for just enough. Didn't have to get to the bottom of the well at all. And he's coming into this race the right way. He's run very well at Del Mar in the past. Imperial Hint is sort of an under-the-radar special. He's very, very fast on his best day. He really has yet to be tested for class. His prep going into the Breeders' Cup is going to be the Don Levine Memorial at Parks, and as we take a look at it, it's a short field full of overmatched horses, but you have to like the way he just rolls in the stretch.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're going to, you know, run him in races like this, instead of running him in the big races for the division, you might as well see him win like that. I mean, he just absolutely crushes this field, and he did the same thing in a prior race. I want to say down at Gulfstream, maybe it was at Gulfstream West, but he just absolutely crushed another field down there. They just haven't run him in any of the big races yet, so it remains to be seen how he'll stack up against some of the better horses. But I'll tell you what, this horse is fast, and he can really run.
And he earned a 109 buyer speed figure in that race. He's sub 44 speed, so you're going to know him early in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Mind Your Biscuits last year won the Malibu. This year won the Dubai Golden Shaheen. Then he returned from the Middle East to win the Belmont Sprint Championship. And as we take a look at this race for Mind Your Biscuits, I mean, he just cruises up on this field, and it's as easy as pie. Now, after the Belmont Sprint Championship, he went to Saratoga. There were whispers after a couple of workouts that, well, maybe it's not what he wants. Maybe Saratoga isn't his favorite track. He doesn't like the surface. And the way he ran his most recent start gave credence to that rumor. He didn't run well, or is he feeling the effects of races like this?
Well, you know, who knows what the real problem is. Whatever the problem is, he didn't run well at Saratoga, and you sort of knew heading into that race that things weren't going well from whether it was that he didn't like the track or if he was just, for whatever reason, off form a little bit. At least you know, sort of feel like you have an excuse for his last race, because I'll tell you something, Dan. That race we just watched and the Dubai race, This horse was lights out in those 2 races. If he can get back into that form, and maybe it's a pretty big if heading to the Breeders' Cup, but if he can get back into that form, he could easily win the Breeders' Cup Sprint.
Let's toss up the list one more time, and we'll quickly discuss some other horses while the list is up there. Takafel, the 3-year-old, got a big win in the Vosburg, showed he could sit off another horse, that horse being El Deal. It's quite possible we've yet to see the best of this lightly raced runner for trainer Kieran McLaughlin. We could see how he ships to Delmar. Where do you think he fits? Because he got a 107 buyer in the Vosburg. That puts him squarely in the hunt.
You know, he's a player in this race, I think. I mean, obviously, he'll be facing some tough horses. I mean, no disrespect to El Deal, who's a fast horse, and that's the horse that he took care of in that most recent start. He'll be facing some tougher horses, but he's not out of the Breeders' Cup by any stretch. He's still improving, and he's way better sprinting. They sort of figured that out finally. He ran really well last time, and you know, he's another horse. He's got a lot of speed in here, so it's one of those things where you feel like Dre Fong might really take some heat early in the Breeders' Cup. I think that opens that race up a little bit.
Ransom the Moon defeated Roy H. at Delmar when he had the dream trip down towards the rail, while Dre Fong impeded Roy H. and forced him very wide. Ransom the Moon did not run very well in the Santa Anita Sprint, but I wonder if they were using that race as a prep. He seemed to gallop out very well afterwards, and if there is a fast and furious pace, it would set up for him.
Yeah, he's a horse who I think wants to sort of sit and just sort of make one run into it, and he should be able to do that on Breeders' Cup Day.
Dre Fong, the 7-2 morning line favorite on DRF National Handicapper Mike Watchmaker's preliminary morning line. For expanded Breeders' Cup contender list, comments, etc., head on over to drf.com/BC.